Once upon a time there was a flour miller. Uncle became increasingly poor. His only assets now are the mill and the apple tree behind the house. One time he went into the forest to look for firewood, and suddenly an old man walked up and said, "Why do you have to suffer like this? I and number 39, LL make you rich, but you have to promise me what and number 39's behind the mill." Uncle thought, "Behind the mill there is nothing but an apple tree." Then he said, "Okay." Hearing his promise, the old man smiled sarcastically and said, "In 3 years I will come and get what you promised me." And he was gone. Upon arriving home, the miller met his wife and came to greet him and asked, "Tell me why the house suddenly filled with money." No one came to the house, but all the cabinets and chests were full of money. "I Don and number 39, understand why?" Uncle replied, "There was a strange old man I met in the forest. He promised to make me rich. And I promised to give the old man the position behind the mill. Of course you can give the old man an apple tree." The wife panicked and said, "Oh my God, it and number 39's you. That and number 39's the devil. It doesn't and #39's think about the apple tree. He wanted our daughter, she used to clean behind the mill." The miller and number 39's daughter is both beautiful and obedient. At home, she listens to her parents very much. 3 years have passed in a flash. The day the demon came to take her away came. She washed herself, stood in the middle of the laurel area drawn with chalk. The demon arrived very early, but he could not get close. She got angry and said to the miller, "You must throw out all the water, so that your daughter cannot bathe. Only then can we catch him." The miller was frightened and threw out all the water. Early the next morning the demon arrived. Before that, the girl had cried a lot, wiping her tears with her hand, so the demon could not get close to her. He got angry and shouted at the miller, "Cut off his hands, otherwise I won and number 39's be able to get close." Terrified, the miller said, "Who would ever cut off my hand?" The demon threatened, "If you Don and number 39's do it, I and number 39's arrest you myself." The miller became frightened and promised to do what the devil said. He said to his daughter, "My child, if I Don and number 39's cut off your hand, the devil will take me away." While terrified, my father promised to do it. "Please forgive me, if I do that." The daughter said, "Dear father, I am my child, just do it." Then she reached out her hands to tighten. The girl also cried a lot, so her tears soaked her socks. When the demon comes, it can and number 39's get close, but it no longer has any power over her. The miller said to his daughter, "I became rich thanks to you, so I want to take care of you and love you as much as possible." The daughter replied, "Father, I can and number 39's stay here, I have to leave. Good people will give you what you need." She let her arms be tied behind her back. When the sun rose she set out. She traveled all day. Until it was dark, it was time for her to arrive next to the royal garden. Under the dim moonlight, she saw that the trees in the garden were very fruitful. Surrounding the garden is a moat. How can she step across it? She walked all day without stopping, without eating or drinking, so now she was both hungry and tired. She thought to herself, "God, if I were in the garden, I could eat fruit to relieve my hunger. If not, I and number 39. LL probably starved to death. She knelt down and prayed to God. Suddenly an angel came and opened the water gate. So the moat running around the garden was shallow, so she could wade to the royal garden. The angel accompanied her to the royal garden. She picked a pear to eat to quench her hunger. The pears in the garden are counted over and over again, so you know immediately who eats them. The gardener saw the silhouette of a pear picker, but saw the shadow of an angel standing next to him, so he thought the girl was a ghost, so the gardener remained silent and afraid. After eating the pear, the girl went to a nearby bush to sleep. The next morning, when he went to the royal garden, he saw a lack of pears, so he asked the gardener why the pears were missing. If the pears had fallen, why weren't and #39 they under the tree? The gardener said, "Last night an armless ghost appeared, it bit its mouth and ate a pear." The king asks again, "So how can ghosts cross the deep moat? After eating the pear, where does it go?" The gardener said, "Someone dressed as white as snow flew down from the sky and opened the gate to drain the water and dry out the moat running around the royal garden." That and number 39. Why ghosts can pass through the royal garden. The person dressed in white was probably an angel. He was so scared that he could N and #39 speak, nor did he dare to scream. After eating, the ghost disappeared again. The king said, "If that and number 39 true, I and number 39 stay here and keep watch tonight." When night fell, the king and a priest went to the royal garden. The priest will talk to the ghost. The king, priest and gardener hid under a tree to observe. Right in the middle of the night, the girl walked out of the bushes and went to the pear tree to eat. Standing next to her is an angel dressed in white. The priest stepped forward and asks, "Were you sent here by God or are you a worldly person?" The girl replied, "I am not a ghost, I am a poor person abandoned by everyone, but God has not abandoned me." The king said, "If you are abandoned by everyone, then I will not abandon you." The king welcomed her to the palace. The king loved her very much, because she was not only beautiful, but had a very gentle personality. The king ordered her to make 2 silver arms. Then there and number 39 the wedding. The next year there was an enemy, so the king had to lead his troops to battle. Before leaving, the king told the queen, "When the queen gives birth, the queen will take care of you and write poems for you on your behalf." The queen gave birth to a son. The queen mother immediately wrote a poem announcing the good news. After a long journey, the tired poet sat down to rest by the stream and then fell asleep. The demon originally wanted to harm the queen, so he changed the poem. In the poem he wrote, "The queen gave birth to a male demon." The king was startled and frightened when reading the poem. He became sad, but he still wrote a poem telling him to take good care of the baby until the king returned to the palace. When the person delivering the poem returned, he also slept right next to the stream. The devil came again to swap poems. In the poem, he wrote that he must kill the baby and the queen. The queen mother was very frightened when she read the letter. She could N and #39 believe it, so she immediately wrote a letter to the king, but once again she received a letter that the devil had swapped. In the poem, the queen mother had to cut out her tongue. Cut out the eyes and keep them as a keepsake. The queen mother cried a lot, because she did not want that tragic scene to happen. to her own grandchild. That night, she ordered someone to kill a deer for its tongue and eyes. Then she told the queen, "I cannot kill you and your mother as ordered in the King and Number 39's poem. I can and Number 39 stay here anymore. Go somewhere far away and never come back here." The child was tied behind her back, and the queen cried as she walked. The poor queen came to a large forest. She knelt down and prayed to God. The angel flew over and led her to a house. At the door was a sign with the words en quote, "Anyone can live here." And quote, a woman dressed as white as snow stepped out and said, "Please warmly welcome the queen." She welcomed the queen into her house. She took the baby off the queen and Number 39's back, cradled the baby and breastfed him. Then put the baby to sleep on the pretty little bed. At that time, the queen asks, "How do you know I am the queen?" The lady dressed in white replied, "I am an angel sent by God to take care of the queen and prince." The queen lived in that house for 7 years in comfort and happiness. Because she was gentle and loved by God, her arms grew back like before. After the war, the king returned to the palace. The first thing is that the king wants to meet the queen and the prince. When she heard what the king said, the queen mother burst into tears and said, "Why are you so cruel? You ordered them both to be killed, right?" Then the queen mother showed the 2 letters to the king and said, "Mother did exactly as she was told in the poem." And she showed the king her tongue and her eyes. Now the king burst into tears and sobbed. The king cried so bitterly that the queen mother had to be moved and said, "Dawn and Number 39's worry. The queen and prince are still alive." The mother ordered the deer to be killed to get the eyes and tongue as a sign, and told the queen to carry her child to the far sky and never return here, because the king was angry. The king said, "Let me go to the ends of the sky and the end of the sea to find the queen and the prince. I will not eat or drink until I find them, unless the mother and child die along the way from hunger and thirst." Immediately after that, the king set out to find him. The king searched everywhere, searched for 7 years, even in ravines and caves, but could not find a trace of mother and child. During the entire time searching for the king, he did not eat or drink. Luckily, thanks to God and Number 39's mercy, he was able to continue walking. Finally, the king reached a large forest and saw a small house with a sign reading en quote, "Anyone can stay here." And quote, then a man dressed in white walked out, took the king and Number 39's hand and said, "Warmly welcome the king." Then asked the king where he came from. The king said, "I have been going everywhere for 7 years looking for the queen and the prince, but could not find them." The angel invited the king to eat and drink, but the king did not eat, just lay down, covered his face with a towel, and fell asleep. The angel entered the inner chamber to meet the queen and her son Sad Fian. That was the name the queen gave her son. The angel said, "Go to the outer room with your son to see your family again." The queen and her son came out and saw the king lying, his veil falling to the ground. The queen told her son, "Sad Fian, pick up a towel for me and cover my face so I can sleep." The son picked up the veil for his father. While daydreaming, the king heard the stories people were talking to each other, so he pretended to let the towel fall to the ground. The boy was annoyed and said to his mother, "Mom, I Dawn and Number 39's have a father on this earth. That person is probably not my father. My father is God. You always taught me that my father is above. Oh my God." Hearing this, the king sat up and asked who the two people were standing there. The queen said, "I am the queen. That and number 39's Sad Fian and number 39's son." Seeing that the queen had normal hands, the king asked, "The queen has silver hands?" The queen replied, "God was so merciful that he allowed his hands to grow back." The angel entered the inner chamber and took out his silver hands and showed them to the king. Only then did the king believe. The king hugged the queen and the prince. The king happily said, "Now it feels like a heavy stone has been lifted from my heart." The angel served rice for all to eat together. Then they all set off to return to the Queen Mother. There was jubilant singing everywhere. The king and queen got married again and lived happily until they returned to the afterlife. Thank you for joining us for today's fairy tale. We hope these stories bring joy and meaning to your day. If you love our channel, please hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any exciting tales. Wishing you a good night and sweet dreams. See you in the next story.